I don't want Wolverine.
Correct, we agree.
I would do a Wolverine series that takes place one season per decade, and then in the fourth or fifth season catches up to our timeline.
Can we put Coy in charge of everything, please?
So,
yes,
we're starting with some general discussion because, you know, as I've proclaimed on this podcast before, Coy is my comic father.
Yes.
And he does a great job at that. Mm-hmm. And with Superman coming out and his DC job and Fantastic Four and just all the universe shifting, amazing content we've been getting at the early screenings of these movies that we went to, we always see Coy and be like, okay, we got to have you back on to just
we'd geek out for like 30 seconds, be like, soon.
It'll happen. And now it's happening. So we're just so excited with everything coming out. We had to have him on.
Yes.
So what do we want to talk about first?
I feel like we got to talk about what came first. Let's just go into Superman. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you're at DC. Obviously, you know, it's a great movie. We all loved it here at this table. What are your thoughts? Or do you have any major positives that are more niche that you feel that not many people are talking about? Do you have any negatives that you want to specifically talk about? What are your general thoughts on Superman? And we'll debate you from there.
I want to start with the spinner rack that started with this movie that I feel like not enough people are talking about because it's such a niche concept, but I think it's really bold that we're going from Superman, which is kindness is punk rock, which is in itself a strong thesis statement that a lot of superhero films I feel like haven't had. I think the specificity of this summer is something we need to admire. I think between Thunderbolt, Superman, Fantastic Four, going into Peacemaker, we're back to making them specific. We're back to having something to say, but that feels like a comic book spinner rack where we're going from Superman right into Peacemaker. We're going from a movie about kindness and hope and good to that character who is about like just white knuckling life and trying to find his moral compass. And then Supergirl, we got to meet in a very not Superman way, which is very authentic to that take on Supergirl, which is The Woman of Tomorrow, which is one of my favorite DC comics. And I feel like we're living in a time that isn't just the golden age of comic book movies in their ability and their awareness and all those things, but I think we're now finally, like the comics did, going from a golden age, which was all of this broad open source, into a specificity that was the Silver Age, but with people still knowing about them. So like, it's a kind of a chapter change. Now I hope the box office starts to catch up, but I do think the quality is increasing at both the big houses.
That's interesting that you kind of, because there's obviously different ages of comics.
I think we're entering a new age of comic movies.
That's a great way of saying it, because it does feel like this year is still good. The quality has seemed to revert back to what it should be. With the quality has gone up, but they do feel different.
But with an awareness that's different.
Exactly.
When Iron Man came out, it was, that Robert Downey Jr. movie. We're going to go see the Batman. Now we're living in an age of understanding shared universes. Both of these films, specifically the most recent two, they both started at like issue 3 in a graphic novel you already trusted. We couldn't have done that. And so
10 years ago.
We're in a new age.
That's my favorite thing someone said on the podcast this year.
I think it's really, because we're going to look back at this, and just like we looked at Dark Knight and Iron Man, but that had to start everything. Yes, we had X-Men. Yes, we had Blade, which doesn't get enough credit. But those, to me, felt like the comics in the 20s and 30s that were preceding Superman in the 40s, that were preceding Batman. Now we've lived through that era, and now we can have comic-accurate costumes. We can start an issue already halfway in progress. We can have all of this shared universe not be like, and the pearls. We can actually go the way. So I think this is a new age of comic book film.
So let's get down to this, because obviously we'll get into Fantastic. Well, do you want to get into Fantastic Four yet?
We can hop into Fantastic Four.
Okay, give us some thoughts on Fantastic Four.
So my favorite thing about Superman is that it felt like a spinner rack, felt like you were already in progress. My favorite thing about Fantastic Four is it is the first time I feel like Marvel really, really trusted in the concept of an Elseworld, of what it is to actually indulge. We all agree in a very specific way that Multiverse of Madness is maybe the most so close of especially recent history. I think Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't see it as problematic as others do using nostalgia. I saw it just like I did with No Way Home, but it's not quite as good, as using nostalgia as a way to tell a story with a narrative that wouldn't serve itself without that emotional connection. I think Fantastic Four is the first time you didn't need an emotional connection to the past. You didn't need to have one toe in. You actually went full multiverse. Fantastic Four is a proof of concept that Marvel could do what DC's doing, which is allowing there to be multiple universes going on simultaneously to have this continuity problem go away. I think Marvel's biggest strength is also its biggest weakness, is that you watch Marvel as an episode of a TV show, and a lot of times the post-credit scene becomes the conversation. A lot of times the Easter eggs become the conversation. I think TikTok has exacerbated that. I think the way we digest media has exacerbated that. But I think that what Fantastic Four showed is that you can make quality without having it be an Easter egg post-credit fest.
So DC is obviously allowing these separate universes to exist with the Batman,
Yep.
and then what they're doing with the mainline DCU with Superman and stuff like that. But with Marvel, I agree, this is the first time they've completely let a multiverse be a multiverse and not try to connect it. But they
Spoilers,
will be.
They didn't at the end, though. That movie got to live in its own.
Right,
We
that's
all
what I'm saying.
thought, I think, that it was going to collide at the end.
Right.
Yes.
I thought the canary in the coal mine was going to be Shala Ball, and then they see Norrin Rad, and they're like, we're not in Kansas anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that's why Shala Ball was going to be the main Silver Surfer, to
Interesting, yeah.
show a Norrin Rad as a...
I thought that as well.
So when they didn't do that, it was a confident move to have it be, this is its own thing. Obviously, we know that it's going to collide, but
That's what
that
I'm saying.
showed the strength of it. They could do that. They could have Earth blah, blah, blah. And I think that'd be a great way to bring in Ghost Rider. I think that'd be a great way to keep him over there, because tonally, I'd rather see a Midnight Suns where Werewolf by Night and Swamp Thing are over there a little bit. We don't have to worry what's going on with the Avengers. I also think the X-Men shouldn't necessarily play in the same sandbox for a little while, except the old X-Men. I think they should use the X-Men that were going to be in Deadpool and Wolverine, which they seem to clearly cut, into Secret Wars and Doomsday as a way to get a bigger and bigger, because sequelitis, right? Like, how do you go bigger than Civil War? You make Infinity War. How do you go bigger than Infinity War? You make Endgame. How do you go bigger than Endgame? You bring in all of them ever, and that's what your big finale. So you couldn't put them in Deadpool. But I think the new X-Men should be introduced at the end of Secret Wars and not be incorporated into the greater MCU for a while.
Something I love what you said. I'm kind of taking 6 steps back on where you're at, but I really want to highlight this. Marvel was so afraid of multiverse forever, and you really see it in Far From Home. They pussy out on it. You really see them pussy out on in like we said, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. It felt like,
What if?
yeah, what if it's like you keep almost doing it, where you're right, Fantastic Four, even though it's not a multiverse movie, it's not a million different cameos or whatever, just it existing in a completely separate universe is such a step forward for Marvel, because it was constantly, I mean, it was whiplash through 2019 to the early 2020s of WandaVision.
Yeah.
Is the Evan Peters? No, it's just an actor. He's not. Oh, you were so close every single time, and then you would just, oh, but we're not ready to tell that story.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they finally are confident in the audience.
I think that
new
you're-
age of comic book.
you're
But
movies.
are you
You're
not
cooking.
worried at all that so many people are already over this multiverse thing after Spider-Verse and Multiverse of Madness
I
and
think
No Way
that's
Home?
why Secret Wars has to clean it all up, and
Yeah.
then you get excited by going like nope, and then starting again. Like
Sure, because everyone wants Brand New Day
Right.
to be
Its own
street
street
level,
level.
and not multiverse.
So Secret Wars in the first iteration was to sell toys, right? Secret Wars 1, 1985 or so, was all these action figures together fighting, and they introduced us to the black suit and all those things. Secret Wars 2 was like a sequel to sell toys. Like, it was the Beyonder, like, vibing on the earth. It wasn't really a narrative push for all of Marvel. But Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars was, we've got this Miles Morales guy we love from the Ultimate Universe. How do we bring him into our universe? We do incursion events. We do God Emperor Doom. We do all these things. I think that the Secret Wars movie is going to be much more akin to Hickman's than the classic Secret Wars, but it can use a lot of the classic elements while being the thing that does what that comic did, which is streamline. It doesn't have to get rid of everything. It should get rid of a lot, but you can cherry pick what you want to keep. If Luke Cage did better than Iron Fist, you better believe they're bringing in Luke Cage first. And Secret Wars can do that with X-Men.
Which is kind of what James Gunn did.
That's what I'm saying. We can now do.
Peacekeeper did well.
Peacekeeper,
Suicide
yeah.
Squad was doing well, so we kind of kept those. And the Batman did well, so we're keeping that, but it's its own thing. Yeah, it's very
I
interesting.
think it's smart to go, we trust our audience, lean back, what's working, not doubling down on stuff that's half in.
Yeah, so...
And the nerds get this not only because a lot of people have read Secret Wars and read Secret Wars and read Secret Wars, etc., but also Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to keep this. This sucks. Get rid of The
100%.
Last Stand, but keep X2 and do this and do that. We've seen this before in a Marvel universe.
And
Like,
I think it's time.
Yeah.
Because it's been a rough 10 years. Well, no, been a rough 5.5. It'll be 8 years by then.
The internet is freaking out as it normally does. A little...
Are you HC Joe?
Huh?
Are you HC Joe?
The internet is going crazy.
Yeah.
The internet is freaking out because of something Kevin Feige said in an interview, and we have not seen the entirety of the interview. It was not on video. It was just bits and pieces from text, and I really want your thoughts on this because I think it'll be good. He said there might, and you were just talking about the Secret Wars kind of using it as a reset. He mentioned there being some sort of reset, and everyone took that as, oh, they're rebooting everything. Robert Downey Jr. is no longer Iron Man. We're going to have a new Iron Man. I don't think that's necessarily what's going to happen, especially immediately after Secret Wars. He mentioned recasting the X-Men because we're not going to use the Fox universe anymore, but he did not ever say that immediately after Doomsday and Secret Wars, we're going to have a new Iron Man. What do you think they're going to do, and what do you hope they do with this quote-unquote reset?
I think in the next 7 years, we'll have a new Iron Man, a new Captain America, a new everyone we know and love. But
in the next 7 years?
7 years.
Interesting.
I think we will have a period after Secret Wars where it is kind of consolidating, if not Secret Wars itself. And I think that it is an inevitability to have Captain America and Iron Man recast. Why not now? I think it's going to be the all new, all different Marvel. I think it's going to be, you've got, I mean, Chris Evans is closer to 50 than 40, and Iron Man is 50 plus, and he's playing Doom. I think there will be an Iron Man in Secret Wars. He will probably fight Doom. I'll be bothered by it. But it will be something that kind of allows us to have a new take on both those characters in the future. But I think they'll be smart, and they won't cast someone doing a Downey Jr. They'll play with the other elements of the character. Like, there is a broad archetypal character in Iron Man and Captain America we've only seen one very specific flavor of. I think you take Iron Man and you cast someone that is going to play on the old money, play on the less sardonic but more businessman. You cast a Jacob Elordi. You cast someone that reads a very different way, and you show that Iron Man is more multifaceted than that. You show Captain America as something that is a different take, but you do it in a long enough time after everything kind of recalibrates. You focus on X-Men and Fantastic Four for a while. You play the hits. Like, right now, Marvel is a band that has been popular for a really long time, and their newest album is about 50-50. And that new album is the least selling album as compared to the other albums, but it's still selling more than most anyone making music. That band needs to go, okay, we're making money, we're doing okay, but clearly not every single's hitting. What do? You do a tour, you play the hits, you remind people why you love them. You play Spider-Man, you play Fantastic Four, you play X-Men, and then you try your new sound out. You do your Meteora album in a little bit.
Yeah. So give it some time after Secret Wars with the reset, with the characters that we have not gotten, because there's still a lot just in the X-Men, and you can focus on that and then eventually bring in some,
like Black Panther 3, I think will be a new T'Challa.
Interesting.
I think we will get new characters after Secret Wars in the old regime, but I think they're going to be very careful about which ones they pick first.
Damson Idris?
I think so.
I think so too.
It's such a loud rumor that makes so much sense. Sometimes a rumor is so loud you're like, well, yeah. Like, I think of a lot of the Superman casting. Like, all those names when they came out, I was like, that'd be perfect.
Yep.
I loved Nick Holt as Superman. And then when he was Lex Luthor, I was like, that makes more sense. And then it was amazing. I think Damson Idris reminds me of when I was hearing a lot of these casting rumors where I'm like, well, just do that.
Yeah.
So I think so.
I think so too.
And I think it'd be great.
I think it would be great as well.
And if it's post-Secret Wars, it doesn't feel as disrespectful. Because it's a new era. It's a new, world.
If they focus on the reset and they focus on these new characters for a while and it feels new and fresh for a minute, and then you give us those characters,
Comics renumber. Like, it's something that's, like, when I go to the comic store, I understand that issue 12 might also be issue 767.
Yeah.
I get that. But the average consumer is overwhelmed by the 767, so you have to make it look like a number 12.
Right. You mentioned Iron Man being in Secret Wars. You think that might happen? Obviously, not an RDJ. Is that a multiverse Iron Man? Is that an Iron Man from our universe? How do you think Iron Man will be in Secret Wars?
I think you hold your recasting for everyone but X-Men until later. I think Iron Man would be a Downey Jr. and it'll be
a Downey Jr.
It'll be an
versus
older Downey Jr.
Yep. I agree with
it'll
this.
be like, the white bearded Downey Jr. and he'll be like
old,
and he'll be different multiverse. He obviously can't be ours. He did. But I think
imagine they brought him back in our universe. That would be
like the shell of the Vision scene in Endgame where it's like but I think there will be a combination of new X-Men and old X-Men. I think it's really smart to play on a goodbye to the Fox universe, even though it's again. But to me, Deadpool Wolverine was like gonna have them, and they were like, we need them for Secret Wars, and now we're gonna get them. I think it's gonna be fitting, but I think that also might lend what better post credit than a new X-Men team at the end.
Yeah. We can start getting into some
let's do
games real quick. 2 questions real quick. One, just name 5 X-Men that you want in the new team.
Storm, and I want her to get a solo movie first.
Good.
Roland Emmerich style, giant global storm movie, like
Yes.
in all puns ways.
Show her as an Omega.
Cyclops actually gets to be a leader and gets an arc beyond I love Jean and I'm confused.
And I don't like.
I hate Wolverine.
I hate Logan, yeah.
I want to say those are the two I want in it. I don't want Wolverine.
Correct, we agree.
I would do a Wolverine series that takes place one season per decade, and then in the 4th or 5th season he catches up to our timeline, and then he's in a movie. And that
Can we
way,
put Coy in charge of everything, please?
the amount, because that way you have the actor be ageless. That way, that by the time you get in, we're emotionally connected to the new Wolverine. And that, I have emailed so many, like, let me in. Let me
Why?
in.
Okay. So
Coy.
those are two.
Yeah.
What else?
Let me do things for
Yes,
you.
please.
I'll make
Coy.
art.
We are the fans. We are your target audience. We want this too.
Coy.
I'm not exclusive at DC House of Ideas. I'm available for all sorts of writers' rooms.
Oh,
yeah.
Coy.
I've got a whole pitch, dude. I've got certain decades ideas.
We'll talk
I've got
more about that on
timelines.
the Patreon. He'll
Yeah,
give us
yeah.
the whole pitch.
You open. What do you open with?
You open with Japan, feudal
Oh,
Japan,
Coy.
and you do the Frank Miller. We'll talk about
Coy.
the Patreon. Talk about the Patreon. The 4-issue Frank Miller run is your first
my
season,
gosh.
and then we'll talk about the Patreon run.
Oh my god!
And then long game, big twist, third act, tune in the Patreon. You do a 70s Days of Future Past that uses clips from the show that come out prior, and you loop it all in. So yeah, that's right. Time travel, use it right. You can write ahead. Anyway,
I'm getting emotional.
Those two.
Yep.
I want a really good real Jean. I think that Jean and Cyclops are a duo. What I would do is I would have a solo Storm movie be a story of her claustrophobia. The idea of someone that fears being isolated, becoming someone that owns the entire sky is such a powerful story. I want that, and then I want an actual romance. I want Notebook with Jean and Scott, and then I want them to come to a movie. So those are my three at the start.
Okay.
I want Nightcrawler to be someone that's introduced with the circus element as like a nice 20-minute chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
World that hates then fears them. We used to call carnies a slur. Like we say gypsy as a derogatory.
Yeah.
I'd lean into that in the film, and they're going to be doing that with Gen Z being so socially aware.
Yep.
And then I got a weird fifth one, and those four are logical. The fifth one's for me, Chamber. I want
Interesting.
Chamber so bad. I think if you want a Wolverine type without having Wolverine in it, you've got a guy that literally blew half his face off when his powers activated. He's this boiling energy of pubescence. What else says I don't know what to do with my body and myself, then instead of acne blowing your face off, have it be someone that speaks in like psionics. It's a very visually cinematic character. If he wasn't already Batman, I'd say Robert Pattinson would be a cool like that voice and that face and that movie star swag, but with no bottom jaw. Those are my fives.
Okay.
Wow.
Last question before we get into what are we doing first?
Wait,
Kitty Pryde's the sixth.
we gotta
Nice.
We gotta talk. So, obviously, then you don't want one of the predominant rumors is that Sadie Sink will be playing Jean Grey in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Obviously, you don't want that.
If she has a solo movie with Scott, I'm cool with it. Like if we have Jean Grey get an arc and that she is a huge member of the X-Men and then we don't rush the Phoenix, I think it'd be amazing if Jean Grey gets introduced first, because Ultimate Spider-Man, there was a whole thing between the two of them and it was like kind of flirty, kind of not. But either way, Scott needs to be his own man, his own leader, and their relationship is so much more important than it's ever gotten the time to be.
Yes.
Like I feel like Jean Grey has been the source of pining. Like, I haven't seen a relationship. I've seen the object of affection and then a strong character and a strong character. I've never felt that the one they are.
X-Men 97 is the closest we've ever gotten
100%.
to it in media, and it's still, 60%?
Yeah.
Like, it's got so much potential to be more. Because
That's our best Scott, though,
that is, yeah, I agree.
of any of them.
I
And I
agree.
love Ty, and I think James Marsden is one of the most slept on. He's somehow in everything and slept on.
Yeah.
But I feel like Scott in that actually got to be a leader
Yes,
and he got
of
to be a
course.
tactician. And we need to see that his superpower isn't just his optic beams, it's his mind.
Yes.
Like,
the trigonometry in his mind
At
to
all
hit
times.
the angles in this. I do trust the MCU to do that, though. The MCU
I trust
is
Kevin Feige's love and obsession with X-Men.
correct. Because I do think they usually do stuff like that where I'm like, oh, yeah.
I think we're getting the Jim Lee suits.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Because I feel like Hugh Jackman in 2000 was on set and then Kevin Feige's like, fix the hair. 25 years later, it's going to be like blue, yellow, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what's coming. I would either do a version where the 5 original X-Men are who we scout plus the giant size X-Men characters like your Storm, your Nightcrawler, your Colossus, and have it be an introduction of like 9 characters. Guardian showed us we can do that. Superman arguably showed us we can do that. Or I would have it be those original 5 are like sophomore juniors to a new wave of freshmen and have them already be in the school, bring in a new wave of students, and either way have a somewhat seniority.
No. I'm completely disagree with you on that. I think with this new age that we're entering in, as we've talked about on this podcast so far, on this episode, we're going to lose origins very quickly. Superman and Fantastic Four, they haven't done the best box office wise, but critically they are very well reviewed. I think we are going to be in an origin apocalypse the next 5 to 10 years. We are not going to get origins on anybody. X-Men,
But he said have them solo movies.
Give me the original class. I don't.
The original class is tricky because it's like 5 very similar type. Like their powers are different, but they're all like similar people.
I get that.
Like Bobby Drake.
I don't really give a fuck.
The only way
I would have 8 then. I think you need Storm. I think you need Nightcrawler. I think you need Colossus.
But give them origins.
I want origins, but I would do special presentations. I would do Werewolf by Night length.
They're not doing that. They're not doing that for the X-Men.
They need something. They need something beyond a
They're
first
doing
movie.
movies for the X-Men.
But then they should get, I think, individual some things before the movie. That's
Correct.
all of them.
That's the only way I'd be okay with the seniority in the classes is if we get all of these characters individually and we get their origins.
Yeah.
And then when we come into the group movie, them already being in the classes would be a little bit better.
Established thing first.
We're saying things that we want. At one point do we look at reality? This is not happening. Jake Schreier is directing an X-Men movie. We don't know anything about a Cyclops movie or a Jean Grey movie or a romance notebook. So all of what we're talking about this entire episode is fantasy.
100%.
So what we know what's happening is there is an X-Men Jake Schreier movie. What do we want from that? I want it to be an origin.
I think Jean getting time by herself in Spider-Man could be what I'm talking about. I think another opportunity to have Cyclops appear in something so we care about them individually. Like, I'm saying there are possibilities leading to that.
Okay.
And then I want more backstory than one movie could give us if they're just throwing us all in.
Okay.
I just want a Blade movie.
I think my pipe dream Wolverine show and Storm movie is more likely at this point.
At this point.
But after Secret Wars, I do think everything's back to fair game.
I agree with that.
Like, so therefore, it could happen then. Will it be Mahershala?
Probably not.
Which is such a bummer because that dude has so much swag. Watching Jurassic World, I was like, well, there's Blade.
And coming off of his second Oscar win, to put his career on hold
for like
the
4 or
way
5
that they
years,
have is ridiculous. Like, actually ridiculous.